welcome to my home. I am in Little Creek in Port Stanley now.
Good afternoon. We're here with Carmel Speers, and we're interviewing her about Port Stanley heritage. And welcome, Carmel.
Thank you. Welcome to my home.
Hi, Carm. Thanks for agreeing to do this. Do you want to just start by telling us when and how you first came to Port Stanley?
I came in 1965. My husband was Stanley Speers, and he ran the marina here. And he came down to Windsor, and I was born and raised in Windsor, and I worked in a hairdressing place. And there was a vacant building beside the shop that I worked in, and he rented it and started a business down there for television channels and aerials and stuff like that. Anyway, he first said to me, "There's just something about you," he says, "that you remind me of my sister, and I'm going to marry you." And that was within 2 weeks I was down there. And so then, for some reason, it just worked out, and we got married in November and moved up to Port Stanley. And his mom lived here, and she moved out to St. Thomas and had a job in St. Thomas. And then she ended up in a job in London. And so we kind of helped her out a little bit. And he has 2 sisters, and he had a brother at the time. And his brother was killed about 3-4 years after we were married. And we became very close with the family at the time, because it was just out of whack to be driving back and forth to Windsor with my friends. So I joined the Lioness when I was here, joined the church, St. Joe's Church. He was in the Masons, and he also went on to be the Reeve of the village in 72. Our son was born in 72, and he did 2 terms. He wanted to improve the village, because at the time we were living in the 40s. It was just back in time. And the women would come into town off the farms, and they would have the long dresses and the rollers in the hair with the hairnet. And, I was from the city, and we just didn't have things like that. So it seemed very strange, but that's the way it was. And so then when we got into the progress of having the sewers here, that opened up the village a lot. And we had to do that. It was government operated that we had to have them. So it was quite I'd say a lot of people liked it, a lot of people didn't like it. We had groups and organizations to run different bake sales and all kinds of different things to raise money to help buy the stuff for the products, because at the time people didn't have a lot of money, and we wanted to do a big sale so we could get money to get an arena. We had support from the government to build the arena at the same time.
These were fundraisers that
we had fundraisers, yeah.
Is that through the Lioness?
Some of the Lioness, some of the different people in just the village alone that wanted to see the progress, right?
And Carm, was the arena built when Stan was Reeve?
Yes,
Yeah.
his name is on it. Ed Lotus's name is on it, and Frank Parthos' name's on it, and who else? Barb Waltz's husband was on it, yeah. So the plaque is in on, and when they built that with the government grant and also the stuff that we had done to raise funds for it, it was beautiful. I mean, it was really something to keep our own kids in tow at the time. And the one section that they built, it seemed like it got so busy, and they decided to build another section, which is the top part, and the top part cost more than the original building at the time.
So the top part was added after the
Oh yes, many years after that, yeah.
Very interesting.
And they used to have a big Quonset hut where Mackey's were, because Mackey's basically was where GT's was now, okay? And then they moved down the way a little bit, and there used to be a big metal Quonset hut, and they used to have a lot of different functions in there, but we had bake sales and stuff in there. That one time, I wasn't here when they had the pool. They filled the pool in at the time. What else they have?
You're talking about Main Beach now?
Yes, Main Beach, yeah.
So Carm, you're saying your husband was elected to office the
Yes.
same year your son was born.
Yes.
So what was that like for you? You must have been on kid duty most of the time.
It was sort of difficult, because when you're running a business, and they're coming in the afternoon. They're saying, listen, we got to survey this land because he's on county council also. And he would have to leave the business and find someone to look after it. Well, he does a lot of this stuff, and they would have meetings and meetings. And I would get calls from people that were really dissatisfied as to what was going on in the village. They didn't want changes. They were against us in a lot of ways. And but it just came to being that we needed a new school. The school had fallen apart. It was absolutely a disaster. So they did build the school, and the new school. They did build the arena. They did get the sewers. And look at it today.
Well, it's surprising to me that there would be people against it. Why would people be against the
because
sewer
of their
being
taxes.
Oh,
The
the
money,
taxes, just
taxes,
the cost
and yeah. They didn't want things changed. A lot of people didn't want things changed. They just like the village as it is. And today, it's the same way. A lot of people don't like all this new stuff, but you can't stop progress, right? So.
Well, you can slow it down, perhaps. But I'm curious about the marina, because while you were doing all this, was he running on the marina at the same time?
Yes.
Oh
yes,
my gosh.
Yeah.
So you were having a young family, and he was busy with his politics, and all the people complaining, and some people appreciating.
Yep.
But also, he had a business to run.
Yep, he did. Yeah.
And wasn't he doing search and rescue too?
Yes,
Karen?
he did that
Yeah.
also. Oh
So
yeah.
you must have got calls in the middle of the night and all
Oh,
kinds
yeah.
of things. Tell
Lots
us
of
about some
times.
of that.
There was a couple of bad things too that happened. There was some young kids that were out on the lake, and they don't pay attention to the warnings, right? Lake Erie is a very dangerous lake. It's shallow, and it's really can turn up quickly. And they were out there, and there was 4 little boys that drowned. There was, I think, 4 or 5 young guys from London that were at the end of the pier one Sunday that drowned. They had to call the search and rescue from Trenton, and the big helicopter would come down, but they had to wait for a certain length of time because when they called Trenton, they had to have some facts and stuff like that. And then it cost so much for that helicopter to come down. Then you'd have all the families of the people that are missing in the marina, trying to run the marina, trying to deal with people that were in there, the policemen. I mean, it was bedlam. It was really bad. I had people knocking at my door. We had moved from Stanley Street, a little home, to the red brick right beside the marina. And I even had some of the CTV news. I had London News banging on my front door telling me, oh, they got to go up in the sun porch. They want to have some film done. They want to know what's going on. They would be in and out of that marina. Was just awful. We had a lot of bad things that happened that you wouldn't even want to see that he went through at that time. People who were killed in boats and
But
stuff.
he had that. Did he buy the marina or did he build the marina?
No, we bought the marina.
From
The marina was built before I got here.
took
His
over the
dad
business.
ran it. Yeah, his dad ran it. Yeah.
that's odd.
And did you have some times when you were worrying about him going out on a rescue thing?
Oh, lots of times. And he ended up getting into selling the Carver boats, which were really, really a good make of boat. And then after that, things got really bad in a certain time as far as the economy goes. And then he went in and found a friend of his in London, and they decided to build another type of boat that was really seaworthy that they would have out east. And so they built that and had it come in, and they used that for the search and rescue a lot, because the little boat that they had here wasn't worthwhile. I mean, he'd go out for hours and hours, and he knew that basically when someone drowns that they don't come back up for 3 days. So,
They
but
had a
the
specially
people,
designed boat? to
yes,
do
it
this?
was. It had a big back deck on it, and it was really worthy of going out in very high waters and choppy waters. So.
What's happened to that boat? Do you know?
We sold it. We sold it when we sold the marina.
Okay, so
Yeah,
it's gone from
and there
the
was
village
4
then.
men from out in Newfoundland and stuff bought it. So yeah.
It'd be interesting if you had any pictures of that boat.
Matter of fact, I think I do, but I
Well, it'd
haven't
be nice
dug
to
them up
add
yet.
to our
Yeah,
interview.
and I have a painting that Doug he had worked for Stan, and he had done a painting, Doug Jones, and I've got it downstairs, and I was just telling Wendy about it, he had a train car, okay, and it was from the original train that was in Port Stanley, and he needed a place to steer the mast poles, and it worked out fine, so they dragged it and put it beside the marina, and they put the mast poles in it. And one day there was some fella come down from Ottawa, and he said, oh, we'd really like that for our museum in Ottawa. So they put it on a flatbed and they took it to Ottawa. And Barry Fitzgerald bought the two train cars that went up and down the hill, the little ones.
The incline, really.
Yeah, and he had them beside the store when the store was built. And so then I think someone from the museum come and picked them up also, and they're up there.
You're saying they're up there?
I think they're at the museum up in Ottawa, I think.
Wow,
yeah.
that's interesting to know.
Yeah. So what else would you like to know?
You'd remember, tell us a little more about like the incline railway. When you came in 65, it would have just been close to being done. I'm trying to remember when it closed. I remember going on it as a young kid, but would you right
No,
around that time?
it was sitting there, but I never had a chance to go on it. No, and then the change was when they had Picnic Hill, and Stan's sister would tell me all about the stories about that, and the people would come from London on the train and do big picnics and stuff up on the Picnic Hill. And then they started progressing. When the sewers came into town, then everything just seemed to boom. And I think it was early 80s maybe when the grocery store was built, just before the GST come in. It was just built there. You could just feel the movement of different things going to happen in this town. And they were digging for the grocery store, and I said to my husband, I said, this town is going to change. I could just feel it. There was more traffic. There was more people coming down than I've ever seen before. Before, you were just a quaint little village. You knew everybody, and if you went to town, then everybody called you by name. Your kids were called by name. You didn't have to worry about them walking to school. I mean, and then all of a sudden, we had the first robbery on the boats, and it was sort of an opening of your eyes, that type of thing, that we never had anything like that. Everybody kind of looked after everybody else. And then with a lot of new people moving into town, then you got to learn that you just don't leave things out on the lawn. You lock your house, you lock your boats. And before it was like, I walk in the house, didn't matter. It just, it changed it. The whole thing is so different now. So it's like living in Toronto now. Right?
Well,
Maybe not quite.
that.
Yeah, but yeah.
But we get what you're saying, and towns do progress and build, and people come in, and it's different. It changes.
Yeah.
But it's certainly still a wonderful.
Oh
village.
yeah. And they started.
And Stan had a lot to do with
Yes, he
those
did.
changes.
Oh yeah,
that
we did.
You're talking about.
Yeah, the people didn't like me too well. They'd kind of voiced their
Well, that's
opinion.
hard. That's hard to
It is.
live in a village and love the village, and then trying to make progressive changes
Yes.
that your husband was doing, and you were supporting him in those changes, and then you have to deal with the negativity.
You just do, yeah. But if it didn't happen, then we wouldn't be where we are today. Also,
Well, thank you.
yeah. It's worked out very nice, and even with the pier being done, that's different. I know there's a lot of talk about that, because when they did that, I used to walk the beach from Erie Rest down a lot. And then when I was walking after they did the new pier, they said they did the excavation or whatever, and they didn't change it originally, but they did, because you can see when I'd be walking, they'd have sand piles that I never had seen before. There was stone where I didn't see before. A lot of little different things, yeah. And then they wanted to put a marina. I remember at Little Beach, they wanted to do a marina in there when they did the berm, but that wouldn't work out, because when you got the storms coming in, that would not work out. There's the way it is, yeah. And then they had to dredge the harbor a few times because of the silt. When the boats came in, we had the tall ships that came in, were really, really nice. A lot of the bigger ships used to come in. I used to see some of them come in but nothing now. Everything's changed a lot. So.
And were you out in boats a lot yourself?
Oh yeah.
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 As part of the business, or was it
Well,
fun? Or
there was
what?
some
Yeah.
pleasure, some, yeah. But our time would be 12 o'clock at night.
Mhm.
You know, by the time you got the marina done and you did the lockup and everything, and then
So you
it was
worked in
his
the marina
time.
as well.
I sold worms, let's put it that way. And I didn't like that job. And I told him one night, I said, you know what? I've got an education to do this and I'll help you all you want, but don't put me in selling worms. I don't want to sell worms. And I didn't want to pump gas. So I'd go over and visit, and I'd do meals when they'd be doing the boats, when they lift the boats in and out, especially in the wintertime. And it was so cold. And I used to do things like that, help them out in different ways that way. But as far as working in the marina, no, I didn't very much. I was just on the social committee, that type of thing.
And you were raising the kids while he was
Yes,
doing all
that's
that.
right, yeah.
And what was it like for them, and what's it like for family with the political pressures and all that?
They were working very early. Let's put it that way.
At the
In the
marina.
business.
Yeah, at the marina. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So how long did he run the marina for then?
We sold it in 2010. Like, we bought this place here, and it was lucky because he was getting tired of it. I mean, when you spend your whole life, you know, working at something, you got to be there 24/7. And in the middle of the night, then you'd hear the sirens go off, and you'd have to go out like that in the middle of the night, and stormy, and you'd wonder if you'd ever come back. It was not good.
And the kids didn't want to take over the business?
My daughter loved it, really, but she was getting married at the time. She was engaged, and they're planning on getting married, and that wouldn't have worked out, no. But my son, he was very good in it, but he wanted his own way. He wanted to do sports, and he wanted to do other things, and he went ahead and went to university and got a good education and decided to leave and go to Australia for a while, and he's made his own way, and he's his own business person, and my daughter's like that too. No, their dad was tough on him, and I remember Doug Five Ash, he wasn't very old when, that's Mary Jo that works at the grocery store, that's her husband. Now he was maybe 10, 12, something like that, and he come over and asked Stan for a job, and when they interviewed him years later as for his job, they asked him a question. I remember Gail saying that. They asked him, who was your most impressive boss? And who was your boss that was the toughest on you? And he said, Stan Spears.
For both answers.
For both answers,
Yeah.
That's right, yeah.
That's
Yeah.
often the way it is. So let's go back to, if you can help us with the history of building the marina in the first place. So it was Stan's dad that...
Stan's dad had bought it from Jeffrey and Jeffrey, which is a financial company over in London, and they had leased it to him. I don't know, it was, but when it was built, I'm not sure. So he had ran it, and then he had a boating accident. So Stan had joined the mounted police when he finished school, and he was out west, and his mom called him and said, you have to come back because your dad got hurt in a boating accident and you have to run the marina. So he come back, and that's when he was like 19, I guess, maybe.
And what year would that have been? Or around about?
Oh, well, he was only 19. Let's see, he's born in 42. So, gosh, I'm not good in math, so I
Yeah,
figured that one out. But
around 1960
yeah,
or something.
yeah,
Yeah.
something like that. Yeah.
And at that time, the marina was used for a lot of pleasure craft, or fishing,
Yeah,
more
basically pleasure craft.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Miss,
people
Mr.
from
Smith.
London, mostly.
A lot of them from London. There's some from Port Stanley here. Yeah. And then once they got into, he worked for. There was a couple of men got together one Sunday, and they decided to stock the lake, okay, with salmon and trout. And they had meetings, and they built the little place up on the back hill, the fish hatchery. And so then they started working hard on that, and then they'd go and get that, and they'd dump them in the lake. So when the lake got pretty well full with salmon, like coho salmon and that, they decided to start with a summer salmon search. So this is how that started, and we had that going for quite a few years.
Tell us what that was, Summer Salmon Search.
They had a lot of boats at that time were coming in around the 70s, I'd say, early 80s, and people had a little bit more money, and they were buying boats, and it was starting to be a real deal to go out and fish. And once they started catching the salmon, because you had to have downriggers, which is, you know, quite expensive, and then they started using it as a little feat to get more people down here for, you know, people of interest, I guess you'd say. And so they had that every, summer for, 5-6 summers, something like that. And then my son Rob, he thought, this works pretty good. So he got it for the young kids, and they set up little fishing tours for them, and then we publicized the Summer Salmon Search. We even had some of the doctors. We had Dr. Drake, the brain surgeon, down with a lot of doctors down from London coming on these Summer Salmon Search things. And fishing derbies and stuff, yeah. Right. Okay. And they'd have prizes, and they'd get it from the local stores down here. And it got to be really interesting.
It would be great for the kids. So the kids would go out.
They would go out. They'd take some of the kids out. They would take a lot of different groups, organizations out. Say if you got a couple of guys want to go fishing. So a lot of times I'd even make sandwiches for them to take it out and get their coolers. And they'd go out for like 3-4 hours. And we had a lot of bookings. Like they'd come back and they'd have a boatload of fish. I mean, a boatload. And of course, they didn't know how to clean them. So luckily enough, Jack Very, that lived just down the street, he helped Stan do the charter boats and stuff like that. And he was amazing. He was also in the fire department system here. He was the chief at the time. So then he got tired of that, so he kind of retired from that, and he come and worked at the marina with Stan and did the boating. So what else was there? They had the carnivals. They used to have carnivals down here. They used to have a winter carnival that would choose a king and a queen for our carnival, and they would have a parade in the wintertime, somewhere around Christmas time, and would have a big red cape and sort of the type of thing that they'd have like now. And they had a lot of snow. We had snow then, and we had snowmobile races in Stanley Park, and we'd have the king and queen sitting on the back of a truck as a parade, and then we'd have snowmobile races down here.
In Stanley Park, like that little park down off Edith Cavell, it doesn't
We
seem
had
big enough
little,
for
I
a
know,
race.
but the little houses were there. We don't have big houses now.
Yeah.
And we'd have a circle, and the guys from the fire department would do it, yeah. And we had little snowmobile races down around there.
Wow.
Yeah. What else? They used to have a lot of, and when they had the Store Club renovated, Joe had renovated it, and it was to the top. It was beautiful. And we got an invite at the time. And they had the mayors from different cities and stuff down, and they were dressed, and they had even the lights across from the Store Club in that park, in Stanley Park, you know, like Hollywood, when they have the lights like this, they were flashing like that, and people had tuxedos on, and they were just amazing.
So I don't know about this. So the Star Club you're talking about was renovated at that time from the dance hall from the 20s. Is that correct? And they were renovating it to be
back to the back, yeah.
Back to being a music venue.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah. And we had a lot of people come down. And then when they were in a car accident, the two of them at the time, and the sons wanted to run it, but it got to the point that was when people used to bring their own little flask of whiskey with them, right? And we didn't have police following you at the time, because nobody really drank. We just, had a couple little drinks and that was it. But then when it ended up being burnt, okay, and they had to renovate it a bit there, but it just didn't work out because that was the drinking and driving that came in at that time, right? So they tried a few things. They had Chubby Checker down here. They had quite a few different ones, but it just didn't.
Do you remember the fire, Carm? The sort of fire?
Sort of.
Yeah.
It was just in the kitchen, basically.
Which it doesn't seem to be too severe. They
No.
could have salvaged that building.
Well,
at that point.
yeah, but at the time, it wasn't feasible.
So you're so this is what I find fascinating is that when they started to increase the rules about drinking and driving, that reduced the number of people traveling here to.
A lot of it. Because the police would sit outside the door.
And people couldn't get their heads around the idea that they could come and not drink.
Well, at the time, they didn't have a bar. They didn't have a bar
So,
in the
they
Star
didn't
Club.
have a bar.
No,
so
no,
they
people
had
brought their own.
Okay.
Yeah, they brought their own, and they couldn't come and
It's too
say
far.
if you're coming in. Yeah, they couldn't, pat you down and say, hey, you can't bring your own whiskey or whatever. It was just, but I know the difference of how it was, and then it just went down to, the big bands were going out, okay, and all the new stuff was coming in, like the Beatles and all that type of thing. So, of course, with that building, it was very costly to run, and they just didn't have it. The boys didn't have it when the mom and dad died. Then they just wanted to keep it up, so it just happened, so.
Carm, what about, Port Stanley's always had year-round people and summer people.
Yes.
And were they mixing much? Did you know people from both worlds? You must have through the business, I guess. But.
Yeah, a bit, but I didn't really associate that because I was a little bit busy. We were running the marina, and then I had my own business. I had opened up my own business. I left when the grocery store opened. I opened up my own beauty shop. I used to work on the weekend down the basement, and then I'd work full-time in St. Thomas. And then we had the grass to cut, and we had other stuff to do. And like I said, when it was time for the boats to go in and out, then there was, you're making sandwiches, you're bringing food, you're doing a lot of work, like 24/7. It was 24/7 jobs.
So you ran a beauty shop in St. Thomas?
No, I worked in St. Thomas at the Homedale Plaza for 23 years. And like I said, when I could just feel that there was something going to happen when that grocery store was being built. You could just feel there's more cars. I'd go uptown to work on a Saturday. If I passed one car, that would be it. And all of a sudden now I'm passing quite a few cars.
And you're talking about the grocery store before the
Stanley.
fire, the first one that was built. And then,
Yes, that's right, yeah. But no, there's been so many changes. The housing that's here, and even with the area that I'm in, Dr. Kurlick owned all this property. It was all fields, right, farms. And
his sons developed it.
yes, that's right, yeah. They were proposing where the other section is over here to build condos at the time. There was a couple people put their name in, but I don't know whatever happened to that. I think they were making more money by selling individual lots when they decided to do that here. Yeah, and then there was only maybe 10 houses or something like that when we moved.
You moved here when it was brand new.
Basically, yeah. This house was 2 years old when we moved in.
And what was it like moving to the new part of Port when you lived over by the business?
By the
hall?
marina?
Yeah.
Oh, it was different. It was a whole different life. Yeah, because when Stan retired, then it just, you felt kind of lost up here in a lot of ways because you're so used to with the traffic and the people and the noise and you can see what's going on. Like nighttime in the summertime, you'd hear the music coming from the different places down Pierside and whatever, and we'd sit on the front porch and watch everybody going up and down, and it was nice there. I really enjoyed the life there, and you meet so many people in the marina business. Didn't matter if you had 10 cents or if you had $1 million, you're all treated the same, and didn't matter if you had a 2x4 boat or you had a big yacht, you're treated the same. People were very friendly, and we bought a little bit more property where the roundhouse is, where they just renovated that. And we could walk up and down all the docks, and people started, coming down more so that they could have a little bit bigger boats to live on, and they had the picnic tables, and it just seemed to be changing so much. I mean, it was I think he had maybe 4 docks when I married him. That was it. And then to buy the property, to have it continued all the way down there.
So they only had 4 places to
Basically,
moor a boat,
there was a
and then
main dock,
then you
and
bought
then
the
you had
property.
a couple little handles, and that
Okay.
was it. And he had the gas, and he had the pump out, which was good. And at the time, we didn't have the yacht club down where it is now. The yacht club building that is sitting there, the blue one that's in front of the marina there, that was the yacht club at the time. I guess the building was up somewhere, and they hauled it down and they put it there. And so that was, I think it must have been in the 60s, late 60s, that they brought that building down, and they had their little meetings and stuff like that there. And then they proposed the town to buy the properties or use that property for them to build that new yacht club down there. So they had a few little docks on the opposite side for a while, but there's floodplain there, so they couldn't build anything there, because when the wintertime would come and the ice would break up, and I've seen it so big, like chunks of ice that were unbelievable, and it would rise up over the top of the wall that was built. We put a wall in for the marina to hold the land and to put our docks on, and some winters when that would break, you could hear it. It was like a thunder, just boom, 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 and the blocks of ice could have been 6 foot at least.
To be
Big chunks
pushed
would
up against your...
pushed up against the wall and eventually go over on the highway.
wow.
They were supposed to be going over on that floodplain, which was on the opposite side. But then when they put the wall across there, it was very difficult because it didn't have a place to surge onto, right? But eventually I haven't seen ice like that for a long, long time.
When that ice sort of jamming would happen, you might get floods.
Yes.
Did you ever have to endure a flood?
Yes, I had water down my red brick house. I've had water in there, but that was only the one time, basically, that I've seen it that was that high. And the funny thing they used to have is in the wintertime, they would put a big barrel right where the bridge is, just on the opposite side of the bridge. And the little stores would all have a little jar in the store, and you'd put a date when it's going to break up. There's going to break up. And if you won the little ticket, well, then you won some money. So if you had the right date for it to break.
I think they actually did that last year.
Did they do that last year?
I saw it out there, and I was curious about it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. And what else they had? They had little ducks. Remember they had the little ducks, the yellow ducks? Yeah. They let them go. Remember a couple of times? I don't know what happened to that either. That was kind of cute to do that. Well, they had a lot of little things just to keep people interested in here. It was good.
So, Carm, you've talked about how much Port Stanley's changed, and maybe just tell us what part of change are you really celebrating or happy about, and are there things you miss from the old days?
I don't know. I think it's nice. I like the people coming into town, but this is a village. Remind yourself that it's a village, and if it gets too busy, then that's not going to be our village anymore. People have come in, they want to change things here, and there's a lot of us that think that, why did you come? Why would you want it to change? If you loved it when you came, why do you want to change it? Like the possibility of they were wanting to do murals on the sides of the building, and they want to do a lot of different changes down here, and that's why you came here. That's why you want to move here. It's because we're unique. We're a cute little quiet village. You could walk up and down the sidewalks. It was safe. You could walk the pier. You could sit and watch the bridge go up and down. Everything. And if it changes too much, we won't have that. And we'd be just like any other city.
But it's good that we put the sewers in and did the changes that.
The arena, the school, yeah, those
Yes,
were good changes.
they were very good changes, very good changes, yeah. But now they wanted to close our school not that long ago, I think.
I know.
That's right. And now it's
because
overflowing again.
Now it's
Yeah.
overflowing again,
Well, that's
so
because of the development. Though.
influx
There's lots
of
of young
people.
families now. Yeah.
that's right, yeah. But we'll just wait and see what happens, right? So, no, I think in some ways there's good and bad about everything, right? So,
That's a good attitude, I think, for sure.
yeah, I've seen it bad and I've seen it good and I've seen it where we're back in time where, like I say, it was like cowboy town almost. It was like I come and I thought, oh my gosh, and some of the stores and where the Art and Soul is, there was a couple that ran that. It was a dry goods store at the time. And the lady would have her, you know, like stockings on with the garters and the little shoes and the long dress. And they had shelves on the sides of all the walls, like, and they had I always remember that it was a ladder with the wheels on it that they'd slide across, and she'd go up and she'd get the baskets with different fabrics and different things like that. Yeah, it was like out of time. I mean, I come from the city. I'm over to the States and I'm coming here and I'm thinking, oh my God, what is this? And my sister from Michigan comes and she says, this is like going back in time. I said, yeah, it is. Like, it's unreal. And their friend said, so what does your sister's husband do? And she said, well, he runs the marina. And he's also the reeve of the town. And they said, the reeve, what is that? Well, it's sort of like the mayor. And so anyway, they're coming from Niagara Falls and they stop at my little tiny house on Stanley Street and they said, the mayor lives here? Like, they couldn't believe that, right? There's just so many little things that were funny at the time, yeah. Very old-fashioned, all the little characters that were here. We've seen a lot of those come and go in a lot of ways.
Tell us about one of your characters that you remember.
Wimpy Milligan used to own the yellow brick building, right? On the corner.
Right on the corner of Main
Right on the
and
corner that's
Bridge
closed
Street?
up right now,
Yep.
yeah.
The old, or what we know as the coffee shop, the corner coffee shop.
That's right,
Okay.
yeah. He used to have that, and he used to be out there every spring with a bucket of paint and a roller, and he would paint that side wall, and he would paint and he'd watch all the girls go by. Like, just, that was his thing, like, and every year you get that. And then we used to have the BA gas station, used to be where the doctor's office is, right? And there was a little cement wall that was across there, and all the men that had nothing else to do and retired, they'd all sit on there. So they'd come around, people walk around, and I'd hate to walk, I'd walk on the other side. But then when Wimpy was painting, I thought, no, I'm not going over there. Anyway, they'd all sit and watch all the traffic go by, right? And we had a little store. It was a little restaurant right in Glover Park there. And that used to be the place to go. And then they used to have where Apropos is now. They had the Poodle Dog restaurant. And the teenagers used to go there, and they had a jukebox in there. But I guess they had a little fire, so they had to close it up. And I always remember that I said to Stan, I says, I would love to have that jukebox, but I don't know whatever happened to that. That was gone. But that was before I came. The fire hall, the guys were always volunteering. We had the best fire department around. There was no reason why we'd have any problem finding someone. They all came the minute, bang, they'd be gone. And then also the foghorn was another thing with poor Stanley, right? And if it blew once or twice or three times, every one of these kids that lived here knew to go home. Bang, they were home. Because all the moms would go nuts if they heard that foghorn.
So was there a code about the 1, 2, or 3 times?
Yeah, there was
meant
one
something?
for fire, one for drowning, and there was another one there for something I can't remember. So when you heard that sound, yeah, you jumped to the gun and the kids got home. They
Got
knew
home
that.
because their parents would want to know that they were safe.
Exactly,
Because you
exactly.
couldn't just call
No, we didn't have
them. I
cell
know.
phone. No,
No,
they
so
were
they had
home.
to get
They
home, so the
they
family
got
knew
home.
everybody was safe,
Yeah,
and that
right,
was the
exactly.
that was the that's,
And we only had, I think it was 1 or 2 trucks, if that, for our fire department at the time. But the volunteers, they were like, bang, in their trucks and gone. And also, when we had a fire up on George Street, there was no pressure up there to bring the hoses to fight fires, right? So until they had the sewage and they put the new water things in, then we had enough to fight the fire. Otherwise, you're, you know, if you had the hose, not much, right?
You can't do anything with the hose if you don't have water.
Exactly.
Did they have a tanker fire truck?
I'm not. I think they did, but it wasn't, you know, that
You run
great.
out of
They
that.
they would get Union used to come. I believe St. Thomas once in a while used to come down. But now that we have ours, it's just amazing. To have this is just unbelievable, because that was so small, but that was the place to go. The guys used to sit out there too, and you always felt safe when they were all sitting around like that. So there was a lot of stories about that, but my husband knew different things like that, how they do Halloween tricks and, you know, set fires and take the little outhouses and set them out in the middle of the road. And yeah, they just wanted to do all kinds of funny things. They'd put them on the top of the fire department every once in a while, an outhouse, or the kids used to do pranksters here. They were good kids, really good kids.
Well, there must have been, actually, it's interesting you mention that now, because once the sewers went in, I guess they didn't have outhouses, the need for the outhouses anymore, so.
Nope. Yeah, a lot of
There were
things. A lot of
surplus
things.
outhouses. to
Well,
be
I
put
mean,
on
people
roofs
did
and-
have bathrooms in the house, but they, you know, maybe from the farms or whatever, they would come and they would bring them down on Halloween night and they'd put them out there. Yeah. I mean, everybody.
Same at Union when I was growing up.
Yeah, yeah. They like to have something going on Halloween night. But yeah, it was good. It was
You
fun.
mentioned different businesses. Remember Levac's Bakery and
I sure do.
yeah. Did you eat that soybean bread?
Oh yeah, that was good. People would come from all over to buy soybean bread and raisin squares, and they had the best tarts. People would line up down the street to get that, and they lived down the street here off of East Road, the couple that had Levac's Bakery, and they sold the rights and the recipe to another couple, and then they opened up at Sunset Bakery. I believe they maybe St. Thomas on Talbot Street. They had the bakery up there first, and then it came to Sunset there. But I don't think they ever got it right. They just, it wasn't the same. Nothing is the same when you get the original people that have it. So yeah, there's what else? Where the yellow building was, I said where Wimpy was. There was a lady that ran a store, clothing store in there, and she had the big work boots and she had the big rubber boots and the overhauls and all that. D. Watt was her name. She used to run that. A lot of different people, and then you had
That
the
sounds
grocery
like that would
store.
be good for the fishing industry. People would,
Yeah, basically.
There's a
Yeah.
lot of, you know.
Yeah, and then Mr. Booker, he would have the grocery store. And I know my husband said to me about, why are you buying your groceries up in St. Thomas? And I said, well, I guess because I do the owner's hair, and that's why I used to do that. And he said, well, I want you to start shopping a little more in town. So I started shopping more in town with Mr. Booker, and he was fabulous. They were amazing. They would give people food, honestly, if they didn't have it. People were very generous at that time. They watched what was going on, I think, or so. So we didn't have homeless at that time. People helped each other out a lot. And Grandma Very used to live a couple of doors up from the United Church. And I remember she used to be cooking all the time, and people that were standing out hitchhiking, this is maybe in the 70s or whatever, if they came to town, and I'm standing out there, and she'd bring them all in and feed them before they'd go back out again. It was just a different time, just a different time in life. Now, you wouldn't dare sin. I could just think, oh no, I'm not even talking to that person. Yeah, and you know, we walk every morning almost, and we know who the young people is and who lived here before, and the newbies, because if you say good morning to them, they look at you like, ooh, like this is not, yeah, definitely.
Well, Carmen, this has been so interesting. And anything else you want to tell us about And
I think I've done enough talking.
yeah,
You've
this
done a
has
great
just been
job.
wonderful.
Yeah,
Thank you so
appreciate it.
much.
Good.
Okay.